Here's something that really pisses me off. Most people think that ADHD treatment starts and ends with medication. But this is actually why so many people stay stuck. After thousands of ADHD evaluations, I've noticed the same pattern. People come in convinced they already know what's wrong, and they just want the prescription. But I can usually tell within 30 seconds if that approach is going to fail. Because medication isn't where treatment starts. It's usually the last thing we talk about. There's one stage almost everyone skips, and getting that first step wrong can send you down the wrong path for years. So today, I'm breaking down the 3 stages of proper ADHD treatment that actually work. And more importantly, why stage 1 is way more complicated than most people think. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why skipping steps or rushing through them keeps so many people stuck, and what to do instead if you actually want your treatment to work long term. And who am I to tell you that treating ADHD isn't as simple as popping a pill? My name is Dr. Sulman Aziz Mirza, triple board certified in adult psychiatry, child and adolescent psychiatry, and addiction medicine. And after evaluating thousands of patients, I've learned it's not about finding the right pill. It's about finding the right problem. So let's start with the part almost everyone gets wrong, the self-diagnosis trap. You've seen the TikToks, the symptoms list, maybe even those quizzes online that say you might have ADHD. It feels like a light bulb moment. Finally, someone that explains why you can't focus, why you start projects and never finish them. I get it. That moment of recognition can feel like relief. But here's where things go sideways. ADHD symptoms overlap with a lot of other conditions. Anxiety can look like ADHD, depression can look like ADHD, even sleep deprivation or thyroid issues can mimic the same signs. When you skip a professional evaluation and assume you already know what's wrong, you risk treating the wrong thing entirely. And that's not just theory, I've seen it firsthand. Someone comes in certain they have ADHD, we run a full assessment and discover that their focus issues are actually severe anxiety, overwhelming their concentration. Once we treat the anxiety, the focus comes back. No stimulant medications required. That's why stage 1 is so critical. Getting the right diagnosis means looking at the whole picture, not just the symptom checklist. A proper ADHD evaluation doesn't start with a pill. It starts with perspective. We review childhood history, school performance, relationships, medical background, even talk to people who know you well. The goal isn't just to check boxes, it's to understand how these patterns have shown up throughout your life. Here's a quick way to apply this right now. If you think you might have ADHD, write down when your focus problems started, how they show up in different settings, and what makes them better or what makes them worse. That simple list can make your first appointment with a clinician far more accurate and could save you months of guesswork. Because when stage 1 is done right, every next step, medication, therapy, lifestyle changes, actually has a foundation to build on. When it's skipped, you're essentially building treatment on sand. Alright, so let's say you've gotten the right diagnosis. You finally have clarity. You start medication and for a few weeks it feels incredible. You can focus, stay on task. You feel like you've got your life back. But then something happens. The spark fades. Suddenly you're productive at work, but your apartment's a disaster again. You're still late to everything, and you still forget the little stuff. You start thinking, wait, is my medication, is it even working anymore? Here's the truth. Medication is just one tool. It doesn't build the whole house. I've seen this over and over. People finally get the right meds, but they expect that pill to magically give them structure, time management, emotional regulation, and guess what, it doesn't. Because pills don't teach skills. A strong ADHD treatment foundation means combining medication with education, strategy, and support. Let's start with psychoeducation. That's not just go Google what ADHD is. It's learning your brain, how you focus, what distracts you, and which environments help versus completely derail you. Once you understand that, everything else starts to click. You realize that maybe you're not lazy. You're just structuring your day in a way that doesn't match your brain's rhythm. Then there's therapy and coaching. Therapy helps with the mental load, the frustration, the guilt, the self-doubt that come from years of struggling. ADHD coaching focuses on the practical, planning, organizing, managing time, building systems that actually work for you. And don't underestimate lifestyle factors. Sleep, exercise, nutrition, environment, these aren't just extra credit. They directly change how your ADHD brain functions. Exercise, for example, literally increases dopamine levels. Sleep deprivation, on the other hand, can mimic ADHD symptoms even in people who don't have it. For more on this, watch my video on ADHD and sleep via the link above. So, if you're taking medication but ignoring sleep, nutrition, or stress, you're working against your own treatment. Here's your 24-hour action plan. Pick one thing, sleep, exercise, or your workspace, and fix a single friction point. Maybe it's setting a consistent bedtime alarm. Maybe it's a 5-minute walk before you start work. Or cleaning one corner of your workspace so your brain doesn't feel as chaotic before you even begin. Small changes become big changes fast, especially when your treatment plan has a real foundation. Because ADHD treatment isn't about finding a magic fix. It's about building a system that finally supports you. Even when you get the diagnosis right and build a strong foundation, you're not done. Because ADHD isn't something that you fix. It's something you learn to manage, adapt to, and grow with over time. I've seen this with so many of my patients. What worked perfectly in their teens suddenly stopped working in their 40s. Not because the treatment failed, but because their life changed. The challenges you face in middle school are nothing like the ones in your 20s or your 40s. In your 20s, it's exams and deadlines. In your 40s, it's meetings, kids, and aging parents, all while trying to remember where you put your keys. ADHD evolves with your life, and so should your treatment. The structure that worked for one chapter may not fit the next. That's why I tell my patients to think of ADHD management like it's maintaining a car. It's not a one-time repair. It's regular tune-ups, adjustments, and sometimes upgrades. And that's not a bad thing. It just means that you're growing. Your brain changes. Your environment changes. The key is being honest when something isn't working anymore and making small, proactive changes before you crash. Maybe that means checking in with your doctor a few times a year. Maybe it's a quick therapy reset when your routine shifts. Or maybe it's updating your coping systems. The ones that kept you afloat in school might not cut it in parenthood. The people who thrive with ADHD aren't the ones who find a perfect formula once. They're the ones who adapt continuously. And if you take one thing from this video, let it be this. ADHD doesn't have to hold you back when you understand it, manage it, and grow with it. The goal isn't perfection. It's progress that lasts. So keep learning about your brain, keep refining your systems, and keep adjusting your plan. Because when you build a life that fits your mind, that's when ADHD stops being the obstacle and starts becoming the reason that you succeed. If you take just one step in the next 24 hours, make it this. Write down what you've actually tried so far. Medications, supplements, lifestyle changes, routines, and next to each one, jot down what did help, what didn't, and what you're unsure about. Why? Because when you can see that pattern clearly, you'll realize something most people miss. ADHD treatment isn't about finding more medication. It's about finding what actually fits your brain. Bring that list to your next appointment, or even review it yourself. You'll immediately see which parts of your treatment plan are working and which might be holding you back. Because when you take the time to look at your own patterns, you might realize something surprising. Sometimes the problem isn't you, it's the treatment itself. And in my next video, I'm breaking down my top 5 worst ADHD medications. And trust me, a few of them will surprise you. So make sure you're subscribed because you're not going to want to miss that one. But if you'd rather skip the frustration and see my top 5 best ADHD medications instead, that video's linked right below. Watch both and you'll know exactly what's worth asking your doctor about and what to avoid. Until next time, be safe and be well.